democracy is this? A democracy where dissent is treated as a threat, a democracy where protest is viewed with suspicion, a democracy where criticism is tolerated as long as it remains harmless. But if democracy means that young people may speak only when those in power approve on what they say, then something has gone terribly wrong. And if this is the democracy they want us to fight for, then I refuse to kill for it and I refuse to die for it. And despite everything I've just described, I remain hopeful because it makes me incredibly proud to see more and more young people find the courage to skip school and join the strikes. In Germany, tens of thousands of young people have already taken to the streets. And what makes me especially happy is that many of these young people are no longer protesting only against conscription. They have to understand that the problem is bigger than conscription itself. The problem isn't called conscription, it isn't called Hamas, it isn't called the mullahs, it's called capitalism. And if we want things to change, then we have to be brave. We have to be willing to take unconventional paths. But above all, we have to stand together internationally, because conscription itself can be fought on a national level, but the underlying capitalistic system can only be fought together. And just one more thing in light of current events. I'm not wearing just any football shirt today. I'm wearing the shirt of my relatives and the shirt of my roots. Tomorrow in Colombia goes the runoff election. And in the first round, the far-right candidate came on top. A candidate who even said that he wants to do to the Colombian rainforest what Netanyahu did to Gaza. But one man stands in his way. His name is Ivan Cepeda, the left-wing candidate who seeks to succeed the left-wing President Petro. And according to the latest polls, he is currently slightly ahead. And if Cepeda wins tomorrow, Colombia can overcome capitalism. Vamos a ganar, compañeros! In Germany, there will be more school strikes. We will be louder, we will be more determined, and we will be more difficult to ignore. Every time the military advertising tells us we serve Germany, we will answer we serve no one, because the structure of lies built by our politicians is already beginning to crumble. And we will not stop until it comes crashing down. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix, for that fantastic start to this session. It's now my great pleasure to introduce to you one of the greatest anti-imperialists in the British House of Commons. Please give a warm welcome to the Your Party MP for Coventry South, Zara Sultana.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute, I'm at the fans making too much sound. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you all to London, and I want to thank the organisers for putting on such an incredible conference where thousands of you have travelled to be here with us today. We meet at a moment of profound crisis, but also a moment of profound possibility. Across Europe and beyond, our governments are finding endless amounts of money to fund war while telling working-class people there is nothing left for public services, for welfare, for housing, or for healthcare. Last year, global military spending reached £3.9 trillion. Think about what that means. Nearly £4 trillion spent on weapons, armies, and war. Nearly £4 trillion that could have been used to build homes, fund our schools, strengthen our hospitals, tackle climate breakdown, and lift millions out of poverty. And here in the UK, our Chancellor has announced plans to increase military spending to £62 billion while demanding cuts across government. When pensioners struggle to heat their homes, they're told there is no money. When disabled people need support, they're told there is no money. When our public services are stretched to breaking point, they are told there is no money, but when arms manufacturers demand more contracts and military budgets rise, then suddenly the magic money tree appears. We're told that the working class must tighten their belts while defense companies celebrate record profits. So we have to ask a simple question. Why is there always money for war and never enough money for the poor? The wealthiest people in history have never been wealthier. We now have over 3,000 billionaires, and Elon Musk, an insecure Nepo baby, has become the first trillionaire, a man that sows seeds of hate and division, telling us what to do. Meanwhile, 1 in 4 people across the world experience food insecurity. This is not a crisis of scarcity. This is capitalism working as it was designed, where wealth is concentrated at the very top and everyone else pays the price. And nowhere else is the brutality of this economic system more visible than in Gaza. For decades, Palestinians have lived under occupation, siege, and apartheid, and for almost 3 years, the world has witnessed Israel wage a campaign of destruction on a scale that has shocked the conscience of humanity. Entire neighborhoods leveled, schools destroyed, hospitals bombed, journalists killed, children buried beneath the rubble or starved by deliberate restriction of food. The greatest scandal isn't that this has taken place, but that it has taken place in full view of the entire world. Every government knew, every leader knew, every excuse has collapsed, yet the weapons continue to flow. And my government, the UK government, has continued to roll out the red carpet for Israeli war criminals and continue to supply components for the Israeli military. Shame on the UK government, shame on European governments for enabling genocide. And just this week, the security minister in Israel, Ben-Gvir, declared that for every tear of an Israeli mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers must weep, and that all of Lebanon must burn. So let's say this clearly. Zionism isn't just a racist ideology, it is a genocidal death cult that we must all oppose. And in our political crisis in the UK, where the government has eroded our civil liberties, prescribed a non-violent direct action group, Palestine Action, for the first time in British history, and locks up pensioners for opposing genocide, people are looking towards Andy Burnham as the second coming. But we must judge politicians not by media narratives or by the nice guy act they might have, but by their record. Andy Burnham voted for the Iraq War that killed over 1 million people and refuses to call the genocide in Gaza a genocide. So will anything fundamentally change? No. Will Britain continue arming Israel? Yes. Will military spending continue to be directed toward, will spending continue to be directed towards military and defense? Yes. So just to wrap up, since I'm running out of time, despite everything, there is hope. But hope is not something that we have to wait for. Hope is something that we build. We see it with the dock workers in Italy and Belgium who refuse to load weapons enabling genocide. We see it with the students organizing against conscription. We see it with workers taking collective action. And we see in every act of solidarity where ordinary people organize in their trade unions, in their tenants' unions, and fight back. So the world that we are fighting for, a socialist world, has to be built up from meetings like this. I'm so glad that you're here. We must continue to fight for it. And as Arundhati Roy reminds us, another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. So let's make that a reality. Thank you so much in solidarity.
Thanks so much, Zara. And another world is possible, and all of us in here are committed to fighting for another world. Our next speaker is Sophie Bolt. She's the General Secretary of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. Sophie.
I just want to thank everybody for coming here today. especially our incredible international delegates, these huge delegations from across the world who are sharing their incredibly inspiring struggles with us here today. I think it really shows the potential of our movement. And we all know that we must seize this opportunity to build a global majority for peace. Because the world is at a critical point. Military spending is at unprecedented levels, and the threat of nuclear weapons being used once again in war is at the highest it has ever been. Political leaders are building even more powerful nuclear weapons that could destroy the entire planet. And they are spending record levels of our money to do it. In France, President Macron plans to station nuclear jets right across Europe. And this is on top of hundreds of new American nuclear bombs now deployed, ready to be used at NATO bases in Germany, in Italy, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Turkey, and now here in Britain too. And not only is this British government building a whole new generation of nuclear-armed submarines at a cost of over £200 billion, but it also plans to buy these F-35A nuclear-capable fighter jets to be able to launch Trump's deadly nuclear bombs. Now, our political leaders, they argue, don't they, that these deadly nuclear weapons will keep us safe. Such lies. In reality, they are dragging us faster and faster towards nuclear war, not away from it. Faster and faster towards climate catastrophe, to greater poverty, to the collapse of our public services. And of course, all of this is strengthening the rise of the far right. So we know how great the dangers are that we face. But more and more people are joining our struggle to stop this war drive, to abolish nuclear weapons, and to fight for a better world. Because it is us. We have the solutions to all of these crises, not the warmongers. And across the world, the US world order is being challenged like never before. Here in Britain, opposition to Trump's global wars is huge. And there is growing support to break with this decades-old military alliance with the United States. The majority of the British people, we don't want these nuclear weapons in our country. And big protests and actions are only growing against British bases that are being used to facilitate genocide against the Palestinian people and to bomb Iran. So we have to seize this moment, starting right here in this room. Let us redouble our efforts, all of us from across the world here today. We must work together in coordinated action to shut down the military bases and kick out nuclear weapons. Together, we can create the global majority for peace that we so desperately need. This has never been such an urgent and most serious challenge. But united, we can and we must win. Solidarity.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Now, our next speaker is not only a former MP for the African National Congress and Director of Shadow World Investigations, he's also the comrade that gave Keir Starmer a run for his money in his constituency in 2024. Please give a warm welcome to Andrew Feinstein.
What an enormous pleasure to be here with all of you. And what a privilege to hear Mustafa Barghouti in person invoking Nelson Mandela. I want to talk to you briefly about the war profiteers, those who are making the tens of billions of dollars from the conflicts in Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, the Sudan, and the DRC. Because let's understand this. It is not just the arms companies, the BAEs, the Rheinmetalls, the Leonardos, the Thaleses, and the Elbit Systems who are making the money. It's the financial institutions that own them, the BlackRocks, the State Street, the Fidelities, the people who more and more run our countries and run our lives. But let's also remember that 40% of all corruption in the world takes place in the global arms trade. And it's not just the Netanyahus and the MBSs and the MBZs who are being paid the bribes. Those bribes come back to our countries, where our political parties, our senior officials and military leaders, and our most senior politicians benefit. Let us never forget that the war profiteer Tony Blair has made in excess of £100 million personally, from his involvement in the invasion of Iraq and with British and American arms companies. But now he is in bed with what we call the defense tech companies, the Palantirs, the Oracles, the Googles, the Amazons. And I'm just finishing a book called Making a Killing, how the West profits from slaughter in Gaza and Yemen. And investigating and researching these people, I can tell you, these are the most awful, egregious human beings I have ever come across. These are people who, like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, grew up in apartheid South Africa. And what did they learn from it? How to be racist white supremacists. And these are the people to whom my own shameful MP, Keir Starmer, is selling off the British state. Because like him, they want our countries to become undemocratic surveillance states that are permanently at war. And what they are doing is turning our public money into private profits. We are paying for the corruption of our own political systems and democracies. And as defense budgets increase across Europe, what we are seeing is our money that should be used for the cost of living crisis, for healthcare, for education, to address the climate crisis. Instead, we see that these companies are making us poorer, more corrupt, less democratic, and most ironic of all, much less safe. But while today things feel dark and the profiteers feel all-powerful, we learned in South Africa that from the darkness emerges the light. And we know that as sure as South Africa was liberated from apartheid, with the help of tens of millions of you from around the world, so too will Palestine be free. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Michaela Tracy Ramos. She has just been elected as the Vice President of Unison, Britain's largest trade union, representing over 1.3 million public sector workers. So you're very welcome.
Thank you. I want to bring greetings to this international anti-war conference on behalf of Unison, the UK's largest union representing 1.4 million public service workers. I am also proud that Unison has a long-standing policy committing to peace and against increases in war spending. We have always understood that the drive to war in Britain is being funded by cuts to our services and jobs and massive underinvestment. We understand that the struggle for peace internationally is intrinsically linked to the class struggle here in Britain. We meet at a dangerous time when the US is operating with complete impunity. Over the past 4 years, we have seen the US facilitate a genocide of the Palestinian people, with the British government not only supporting Israel politically and materially by providing weapons and warships, but using their bases in Cyprus to conduct intelligence flights over Gaza for the Israeli government. We have watched before our eyes the illegal war on Iran perpetrated by the US and Israel, killing thousands. We continue to see the war in Ukraine with our government and the EU doing their utmost to prolong it. And we see the strangulation of the people of Cuba with the tightening economic blockade and Trump threatening military intervention of the island. These are all parts of a project by the US of complete domination by any means possible. As a union, we are clear: hands off Cuba, end the war in Iran, and free Palestine. And our government, this disgraceful government, which have raised war spending to the highest it has been since the Cold War, and still that is not enough for the war hawks in Parliament. The mass media coverage following the resignation of the War Secretary John Healey, in which he said we weren't spending enough on war, has been deliberately to set out Britain's war psychosis. This clear objective of John Healey and his acolytes are to win over the public for increasing militarisation and for war preparedness with lies of the so-called danger Britain is in from Russia and Iran or anywhere else. And Dan Jarvis, the new Defence Secretary, is supposedly working around the clock to get the so-called Defence Investment Plan finalised. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has already said he is asking all government departments to cut their budgets by 1% to fund investment in the war industry. So it has never been clearer who is going to pay for this increases in war spending. It is us, working people across Britain who have already been at the sharp end of cuts, expected to front more for the mythical security threat. And who is the real threat? Comrades, there is one country who we are providing explicit military support to and weapons to, and that is the United States. How can the government talk about defence and security when explicitly, materially supporting the world's global aggressor? Keir Starmer marked his cards clearly on the first day in office where he attended a NATO conference. He made it clear that on no uncertain terms, Britain will continue to facilitate the US hegemonic strategy, continue to provide the use of British bases at home and abroad to site US weapons of mass destruction and launch bombing raids across continents. We have the 6th largest military budget in the world, and who benefits from that? For certain, it's not the people of Britain, nor the millions in Iran, Palestine, and Lebanon, and other war-torn targets of imperialist aggression. But for the shareholders of the mega military-industrial complexes, it is a different story. They, with their blood-soaked hands, are laughing their way to the bank, delighting in demands to up the military spending year on year. They want more planes, more bombs, more drones, state-of-the-art technology, and they will literally make a killing. And Britain is not isolated in its drive to war. This is mirrored across Europe when the EU are demanding more military spending from its member states. So Keir Starmer's Labour Party have placed themselves firmly at the side of the war machine, solidifying the Labour Party's place as the party of war. This government, despite every election promise, have betrayed the British people by investing in the military-industrial complex when we face relentless austerity, underfunding in public services, and soaring costs of living, poverty, and desperation are blighting the lives of millions of working-class people. We know that there is a choice in death or destruction or the means of life, public services, and the working class of this country. The choice is clear. This really is the fight of our lives. We will not stand by while the government call for never-ending war. We will fight for jobs, not bombs, welfare, not warfare, stop the war and start the peace.
Thank you, Michaela, and congratulations on your election as Vice President of Unison. Our next speaker is the General Secretary of one of the leading progressive fighting unions in this country, the National Education Union. Please welcome Daniel Kebede.
So, comrades, it is wonderful to be here at this historic conference where thousands of us have come together from across Europe to demand peace for people everywhere. We are standing on the edge of an abyss. Global conflict is at its highest level since the Second World War, and the madman in the White House wants even more wars, threatening further conflict against Latin America, especially Cuba, and even threatening to annex Greenland. We cannot rely on our politicians to create and sustain the conditions for peace. That responsibility rests with us. Without the voices and the actions of the ordinary working class people, the peace that we all want will be so easily drowned out by the drumbeats of war. Funded by cuts to welfare, public services and overseas aid, global military spending surged to a record $2.9 trillion in 2025, the 11th consecutive year of growth. Redirecting just a fraction of that spending could address critical development challenges. For example, a single stealth fighter could fund a year of education for 200,000 children. Our governments have got the wrong priorities. We want welfare, not warfare. We demand school books, not bombs. Because every war is a war on children. Almost 4.5 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, children and families and educators continue to face the devastating consequences. Hundreds of Ukrainian children have been killed, thousands injured, and millions displaced. More than 1,700 schools have been damaged or destroyed, and 4.6 million children are struggling to access education, forced to learn online or in underground stations. Despite these challenges, educators and unions continue to work to keep education alive. And the NEU stands in solidarity with the Trade Union of Science and Education Workers of Ukraine and with the Ukrainian people. Earlier this week, the Global Coalition to Protect Education from Attack released a report documenting attacks on education last year beyond Ukraine. Its findings are a stain on our collective conscience. More than 8,500 attacks on education were recorded, the highest ever level. 2,400 attacks against students and teachers were recorded in Palestine, a scholasticide in Gaza, schools demolished and attacked in the West Bank, swathes of schools destroyed across southern Lebanon, and over 500,000 school-aged children displaced since March. 150 civilians killed in the bombing of a girls' school in Iran. Students and educators abducted in Nigeria, Sudan, Congo. Teachers killed in Colombia, the most dangerous country to be a teacher trade unionist. As arms manufacturers enrich themselves, it is those least responsible that bear the costs of war. Last year, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that the UK's aid budget would be cut by 40% to fund a corresponding increase in defence spending. Now the government is considering further cuts to aid and seeks to increase its military spending yet again. The people in countries most affected by war are being forced to pay for those same wars and weapons that rain down on their schools, homes and hospitals through cuts to education and health. And in our own countries, when the funding for war, welfare, education, healthcare, homes and other public services is cut to pay for increased military spending, it is working people, especially the most marginalised, who pay the highest price. And what of those who stand up to protest against these wars and atrocities around the world? Now, we have seen a growth in the Palestine solidarity movement, but it has been met with brutality, oppression and criminalisation. We have all witnessed the brutality meted out by the IDF against the global Samud Flotilla participants whose only crime was to seek to take aid to Gaza. And while Britain continues to sell its arms to Israel, it is too criminalising those who protest against the genocide. Our good friends, Ben Jamal and Chris Nynam, two highly respected civil society leaders, are now appealing their convictions following the peaceful Palestine Solidarity event in January 25. As Human Rights Watch and other rights organisations have noted, these convictions are a testament to how far this country has swung towards adopting authoritarian approaches to protest. This week, the UK Court of Appeal overturned a High Court ruling that found the government's prescription of Palestine action under the Terrorism Act to be unlawful. This decision, described by Amnesty as a shameful chapter in our history, will only further inhibit the right to protest. So, colleagues, we've got a huge task before us. Working for peace means pushing against the tide. But this conference and the one in Paris before it has shown that together we are more than a sum of our parts. Across Europe, opposition is growing to militarisation and the consequent attack on workers' living standards is growing. So together we can win peace. Through international solidarity, we will prevail. Solidarity all.
Thanks, Daniel. Our next speaker is Ulrike Eifler. She's a trade unionist from IG Metall, the Industrial Union of Metal Workers, which is Germany's largest trade union. So please give her a warm welcome.
Comrades, first of all, I'd like to say thank you. Thank to the British comrades who organized this important conference, giving us the opportunity to gather here in London in order to develop a shared perspective of our struggles. And this is urgently needed and necessary because our governments are steering us in an era characterized by rearmament, by war, by climate collapse, by dismantling of a social welfare and by authoritarianism. And one of the biggest drivers of this development is Germany, being in its 6th year of recession and facing an enormous deindustrialization. And almost The entire world is turning away from Germany with its double standards and the unbearable solidarity with the Israel government. And comrades, it is this fear. It is the fear of economic decline, and it is a fear of a loss of political significance that drives Germany to meet the NATO defense spending target 5 years earlier than all other NATO nations. It is this fear that prompting Germany to build the largest army in Europe. And it is this fear that makes the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz say that Israel is doing the dirty job for all of us. Our governments are steering us into a new era of lawlessness. And it's becoming increasingly clear that Gaza was not the exception. Gaza was the blueprint. And comrades, whoever does not respect international law, does not respect labor and trade union rights as well. The politicians in Germany who refuse to classify the attack on Iran as a violation of international law are the same who want to abolish the 8-hour workday and raise the retirement age. What we currently witness across Europe is this: the massive military buildup is to be financed by our pensions, by our healthcare system, by our schools. Our governments have fired up the chainsaws, and we must switch them off and consign them to the dustbin of history. And therefore, we should call out to them: we do not accept the destruction of our societies. Schools are more than recruitment centers for the military. Hospitals are more than places where soldiers are patched up for the next stint at the front. And the elderly are more than a burden on the budget. This continent, this social welfare state, do not belong to our governments. They belong to the people working in the factories. They belong to the people working in the hospitals and in the supermarkets. We witness that the society is militarized, and that's why let's embrace the contradictions before us. If the society is militarized, the world of work is militarized as well, not just in the arms industry, also in the ports and in the hospitals, among teachers, among journalists. And a militarized world of work become crucial for the struggle against war. Dock workers in Italy and in Greece have shown what we can achieve when we refuse to comply. Imagine how strong we would be if not only the dock workers refused to load shipment arms, but teachers also denied soldiers entry to their classrooms. Or if nurses declared they would treat gunshot wounds and burns only on the condition that soldiers were sent home to their families and not back to the front. Last sentence. That's why, comrades, that's why our most important task is to build a strong anti-war movement with deep roots in the labor movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ulrika, for that fantastic speech. And our next speaker is one of the founders of the Stop the War Coalition, a national officer of the coalition, and the main organiser of today's magnificent conference. Please give a warm welcome to John Rees.
This is an historic event because our opponents meet together all the time. They meet at summits, they meet at the G7, they meet at Davos. But for us it is unusual. We hear about each other's actions, of demonstrations in France, of general strikes in Belgium, of the actions of the dockers in Italy and in Greece. But how often? How often do we actually meet together to plan, to organise, to make those struggles more effective than they are already? Rarely indeed. So today is a moment where we should seize that opportunity because it has never been more necessary. So I welcome the delegations from France, the delegations from Spain, the delegations from Germany, the delegations from Belgium. I welcome and send my greetings to those who I know are watching in city after city in France, at watch parties, now watching the YouTube of this. So to Nantes, to Lyon, to Paris, greetings from London. And you know, we see the rallies in Saint-Denis. We saw the rally in solidarity with the mayor of Saint-Denis, Bali Babakoku. And I heard them say, because the rally took place in front of the Basilica, where the monarchs of France lie buried, I heard them say, this is the place of dead kings and living people. Well, you know, here in Westminster, just across the road, in Westminster Cathedral, there are the dead kings of England, and here are the living people of England. And the living people of England say, solidarity with Palestine, no more war, lower your guns, raise our wages, welfare, not warfare, wages, not weapons. That is what the living people of England say. And yesterday we met in a delegate meeting and we decided that after the magnificent start in Paris last October, after the conference today, it cannot just be talk. We have to move to action. And so we said, on the 10th of October, international demonstrations for Palestine. In November, international action against conscription and rearmament. And when the dockers call a day of action, international action in solidarity with the dockers. That's what we must do next. That's the purpose of the London conference. And I'll end with this. 162 years ago, not a mile from this building, there was founded the first International of Working People. And when Karl Marx wrote the inaugural address, he said, working people must watch the diplomacy of their rulers and fight them. And he ended that address by saying, proletarians of the world, unite!
Okay, okay. Great. It's great. Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks to John for a fantastically rousing speech. Our next speaker will be known to many of you here. It's Jérôme Legare, is the MP for Seine-Saint-Denis from La France Insoumise, leader of POI, the Independent Workers' Party in France. So please give him a warm welcome.
Wow. Dear comrades and friends, it's a great honor for me to speak here today at Westminster Central Hall before thousands of people. Special thanks to the British comrades who organized this splendid conference. I am very pleased to be here with my colleagues and comrades from La France Insoumise. Nadège Abomangoli, Vice President of the French National Assembly, Daniel Obono, Jean-François Coulombe, André Torignac and Sandrine Nosbet. Comrades, just a few days ago, the French Parliament voted for a 36 billion increase in military spending. In France, the military budget has been doubled in 10 years, and in just a few minutes, the government found 36 billion for the army. Every political force, from the Socialist Party to the far right, voted in favor of this increase. La France Insoumise, of course, voted against it. When child welfare organizations ask for the 3 billion missing from child protection and social care budgets, the government tells us there is no money. In a country where 10 million people are living in poverty, the government has decided to cut 6 billion from hospitals, social security and education. But in a few minutes, they find 36 billion for the army and for war. And the French government is doing exactly the same as Starmer in Britain, Merz in Germany, and Meloni in Italy. 3 days ago, French President Macron welcomed, yes, French President Macron welcomed, yes. Yes, it's what people want in France, exactly. French President Macron welcomed Donald Trump with full honors at the Palace of Versailles, the Palace of the Kings of France. He welcomed the man who bears primary responsibility for the continuation of the genocide against the Palestinian people. The man responsible for the war against Iran. The man who kidnapped Maduro and who today threatens Cuba. And Macron the little King Macron dares to tell us we are living a great moment of peace. He is referring, of course, to the agreement between the United States and Iran. But meanwhile, the genocide of the Palestinian people continues. Meanwhile, ethnic cleansing continues, and it continues with the complicity of our governments. The United States and Israel have launched a war against Iran with global consequences. Israeli Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has just declared Lebanon must burn. And today, Donald Trump is threatening Iran again. And meanwhile, for 4 years now, war has devastated Ukraine. While governments and arms manufacturers prosper, hundreds of thousands of people on both sides have been killed in this war. And we know that American imperialism, which is in crisis and in decline, and Donald Trump himself will not voluntarily abandon their objectives. US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth recently declared that the American military presence in Europe should be reconsidered. We all know what that means. Even greater pressure on European governments to increase military spending. For months now, in France, in Britain, and in Germany, we have been subjected to an intense propaganda campaign. They say we must prepare for a confrontation with Russia on the European continent. In last December, the Chief of Staff of the French Armed Forces declared that French people must be prepared to sacrifice their children. We reject this war propaganda, and we say we will never accept the sacrifice of our children. We say they won't go. Our governments are spending money to prolong wars and to expand wars. And I say this clearly, for people in France, for workers, for young people in France, in my country, the main danger, the principal danger is our government. And for example, in this moment, it is multiplying racist measures, passing laws that divide people along racial lines. It feeds racism and Islamophobia, and it feeds the growth of the far right. Yes, the revolutionary Karl Liebknecht was right when he said the main enemy is in our own country. Comrades, it is the mobilization of peoples united against their own governments that will stop the march towards war. And we say full and unconditional support for the Palestinian people. We say full and unconditional support for Russian deserters. And we say full and unconditional support for Ukrainian deserters. Full support for all those who are fighting to stop this machinery of death and destruction. I saw what dock workers have done to prevent weapons from being shipped to Israel. I saw the strike by young people in Germany against conscription. I heard what young people in my own country said. We will not go. Comrades, they show us the way forward. Because if we want to stop the march towards war, if we want to stop war budgets, then we must stop the war machine itself. And in this struggle, The responsibility of the trade union movement is enormous. There are a lot of unionists in this room, and it is very important. The forces exist within the trade union movement, despite of the major leaders who in my country, for example, behave as if everything were normal. The powerful mobilizations against the genocide of the Palestinian people demonstrate that people, and especially young people, don't want war. Our task, starting today with the big success of this conference in London, is to work to bring together and unite all those forces in the trade unions, in the political parties, in the associations and campaigns against war and against our governments. And now, comrades, place to the action. Thank you, comrades, and solidarity.
Thank you, Jerome, and thank you to all the comrades from France here today who are building such a magnificent movement against imperialism and war. Now, brothers and sisters, our next speaker has been at the heart of anti-imperialist politics in Britain and around the world for 60 years and more. He was in Grosvenor Square in the demonstration against the Vietnam War in 1968, and he was in Hyde Park in 2003 to speak against the Iraq War. Please give a very warm welcome to Tariq Ali.
Friends, I want to speak about three things today. One, on what is going on in the Middle East and neighboring zones at the very time that we are meeting here in solidarity with Palestine and other people oppressed by the Israeli government and their backers. What is happening is very interesting, is that there is now clearly, for the first time over the last 3 decades under presidents belonging from different parties in the United States, a division. It's not a permanent division, but it's a clear sign of a split with the Israelis who thought that they could get away non-stop with everything, and maybe they will. I don't want to say they won't, since they have so far. But the sections of the United States media, the young people in the Democratic Socialist Alliance who are in the Democratic Party are winning primary after primary. And why? It's linked to the struggle of the Palestinian people, their refusal to capitulate, their refusal to surrender, and the failure of the Israelis and the Americans and most of the European governments to destroy and crush the spirit of Palestine. So we have a fake ceasefire in Palestine, which people like to believe was real. We have Trump first going to address the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, to celebrate the ceasefire, but what they're celebrating is their triumph. They think they've got Gaza, they think they've destroyed everything, they think that now they can build property and tourist enterprises on the beaches of Gaza. They think that and they celebrate it. And Zionist billionaires are present in the Knesset, billionaires from the United States, and they exchange words with each other, congratulating each other. And the very next day, Trump flies to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt to meet with his Arab servants, the heads of these wretched dependencies that imperialism created in the Gulf, first Britain and then taken over by the United States. And he goes there, and they all celebrate the ceasefire, and the very next day, Israel bombs again, just to show who's in charge. And then they do something which they thought would be a rollover. They invade Iran. Before that, look, there is a genuine mass movement in Iran which wants civil liberties, etc., which I've supported for 30 years. But there is another movement which Trump now admitted they backed, they gave money to, they sent weapons to, and what does the American president say? A lot of the money and the rifles were taken away by the Kurds. We couldn't prevent that. But they admit what they're up to, you know? And so they hit Iran, thinking they'll topple the regime. They go in and assassinate its leaders. That's accepted in the Western media, accepted by so-called Western civilization. It's fine. Go and kill a few heads of state in the Middle East. Kidnap a few heads of states in South America. We can do it. And they thought that they had Iran, and then the Iranians did something which took them by surprise. They fought back. They fought back, they bombed Israel, and they hit US bases in all these Gulf states. First Saudi Arabia, then Kuwait, then Bahrain, and then Qatar. So what happens is the rulers in 3 of these states said, we don't want to be part of the American plans anymore, because they never thought that this could be done from within the region. And so we have a situation of stalemate now where the Americans want to do a deal, because the other thing the Iranians did, which was very clever, is close down the Straits of Hormuz. And at the same time, the Yemenis, the Houthis in Yemen, in Sana'a, closed down their part of the sea to all Israeli shipping. So when resistance comes, it does have an impact if it is handled properly. And so we will see now whether Netanyahu can be brought to heel, whether they're going to wait till the elections, hope that he will be defeated and another person can be put in charge, just like Starmer and Burnham in this country. And then we'll see, they say, how we'll carry on. But the impetus of triumphalism, that which the Israelis were boasting about, that has been breached, have no doubt about it. And I have friends in Jordan, Palestinian friends, who said that when the Iranian planes and drones went over Jordan to bomb in retaliation for what was done to them, Tel Aviv and Haifa, they said half the population of Amman was out onto the streets praying, saying, don't forget us, bomb us too, please. They didn't that time, they have recently. So that is the situation. It's a very critical situation, and we have to be aware of it, given the appalling, miserable reporting in the mass medias of all the European countries. The second point I want to make, which I don't need to make to a gathering like this, is that the solidarity movement with Palestine is unprecedented in world history. Unprecedented. I've been active for a few years now, and I tell you, I've seen nothing like this. Both organized, like Stop the War, of which I've been a member and supporter and patron since they first went into Afghanistan in 2002, through the Iraq wars, through all the other wars, and finally this, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, of course, and the springing up of oppositions through various groups in Europe, slowly but surely. And I would like, as an old campaigner myself, to pay a very warm tribute to the dock workers of Italy who have now organized 3 general strikes. That is the way to do solidarity, on different fronts, in different ways, and unite to put pressure on these wretched, corrupt politicians, regardless of which party they belong to. They are totally corrupt people. Most of them. I exclude the Spanish from this, of course. But I think most of the governments in Europe are linked financially to the big billionaires, and to Israeli millionaires. Non-stop. We are now seeing the evidence for it slowly coming out. And that is why, when a party emerges suddenly, but after working for years, like La France Insoumise, whose leader, is courageous, who fights back, who will not take any nonsense, who is attacked. I was in France 3 weeks ago having lunch with him, and he explained to me what the French press is doing. And I said to him, what you are doing is important not only for France, but for Europe as a whole. Because if and it's still a if, nothing is sure, but if Mélenchon gets into the second round, France will be polarized between fascism and everyone else. And that and it will be a victory not just for the French left, for French workers. It will be a victory for the Palestinian people as well, because he is one of the few leaders of a political party who has backed them openly. So what we are seeing now is a resistance.
Tariq, can you finish now, please? Can you finish now?
A resistance. What we are seeing now, you made me wait too long today, that's why I have to speak for 2 more minutes. A resistance. We are seeing a resistance on a global level, a resistance of solidarity represented by all of you. And we are seeing a political resistance slowly beginning to spring up. And at that time, they want to sack the head of the International Court of Justice, an international criminal court, because he's gone too far in declaring Western politicians and Israeli politicians to be war criminals. They're accusing him of sex crimes. These are the people who've been working with Epstein for the last 10 years.
Thank you, Tariq. You need to stop now. Thank you. Thanks, Tariq.
So, comrades, friends, solidarity, and onward till we win, and may the victory to the Palestinians, whenever it comes, come. It will happen.
Queen.
Thank you very much, Tarek. Our next speaker is Mariam Aslamdouche. She's the General Secretary of the TSSA, the Transport Salaried Staff Association, has been very outspoken against war for many, many years. Please make her very welcome.
Thank you, Louise. Conference, comrades, sisters and brothers, Mariam Aslamdouche, General Secretary of the Transport Salaried Staffs Association. We represent transport and travel workers across Britain and Ireland, and we are proud to be one of the sponsoring trade unions for today's international conference against war. I will speak to you today from two perspectives. The first is as a trade union leader on the urgency of the anti-war movement as a trade union cause. The second, as an Iranian woman, witnessing my birth nation's victimization and resistance to the imperial war machine. So turning to the first priority of trade unionists resisting the relentless drive to war. Here in Britain, we are experiencing pressure towards war, which is reflected across Europe and the rest of the Western world. And this isn't just rhetorical pressure, nor is it just expressed in support of America's imperialist wars. Rather, our government is in a desperate drive for armaments. Their plan is to more than double military expenditure over the next few years, and they have made it very clear how they will pay for it. By cutting the very essentials of everyday life for workers, they're continually threatening to cut social security benefits for tens of millions of families who rely on that redistribution to survive in our cruel economy, even when they are in work. And more immediately, the British government has announced that every other department must slash their capital budgets to fund weapons purchases. In my industry, transport, we're particularly hard hit as transport spending is focused on capital investment. And our transport infrastructure crumbles in many places. We cannot afford to forego investment. Today, we mourn the death of a train driver killed yesterday in a collision which we believe was caused by failures of safety equipment and procedures. We can't afford more deaths caused by failure to invest. And the money being taken will not be spent on men and women serving their countries, but rather on big American toys, such as nuclear-armed F-35 jets, which Iran has proved are not even suitable for the needs of the unnecessary wars of today. Which brings me on to Iran. I'm a leader of a British and Irish trade union, but I'm also a proud Iranian woman. Thank you. A year and a week ago, as Israel launched its first open war in Iran, I promised that Iranians would not be bowed by this imperialist aggression. And I'm proud to say we have not been bowed. We have faced the most enormous tests, but the brave men and women and children of Iran have held our heads high and withstood two of the most powerful militaries of the world. So, as peace may be slowly blooming in Iran, we Iranians ask ourselves, dare we hope? Dare we hope that no more lives will be blighted by war? Dare we hope that future Iranian boys and girls will not grow up with the fear that Tomahawk missiles may one day come for them? Dare we hope, even while we mourn the precious children of Minab murdered by the US? Dare we hope just that Iran might be treated like a normal country? Dare we hope that we might be allowed to breathe, that sanctions might not constrict everything that our future generations do? Dare we hope that our people's minds might not be poisoned by propaganda satellite news channels? Dare we hope that in 5 years' time, if we mention we're Iranian, people will respond with the love of our food and our music, not cower away from some imagined terror? And I answer my question, yes, we do dare hope. Iran's resistance, Iranian people's enormous strength of spirit allows us to dare to hope. And if Iranians can hope, even after 47 years of strangulation and murder by the world superpower, then all of the people of the global south can hope as well. Our cousins in Cuba can hope, our sisters and brothers in Lebanon can hope, and our beloved Palestinians can hope. Conference, we dare to hope. Long live Iran, long live Cuba, long live Lebanon, and long live Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam, and thank you for you and your union's support for our movement. I should let you know that at the end of this session, there will be a collection on the way out. Please give as generously as you possibly can, because obviously this hall and the other aspects to organising this are very expensive. So please, on the way out, there will be a collection, and give as generously as you can. Now, I need to offer an apology before the next speaker, because the next speaker is going to speak to you in Spanish, but unfortunately our Spanish translation service has had to go home, so we're not able to offer a translation. He'll speak to you in Spanish, which I appreciate many, probably most of you, will not understand. However, we should hear him. He's come over here to address you, and of course we will publish an English translation of his speech on the Stop the War website as soon as possible. So please give a welcome to Jordi Salvador Duch MP, representing the province of Tarragona for the Republican left of Catalonia and a former leader of the UGT trade union of Tarragona in Spain. Give him a warm welcome.
Good evening. Yo no soy von der Leyen. No soy von der Leyen. Tengo una hija y no quiero que mi hija vaya a la guerra, porque tampoco quiero que ninguna hija ni ningún hijo vaya a la guerra. Por esto estamos aquí, entre otras cosas. Camaradas, amigos de todos los pueblos, amigos de todos los pueblos, en marzo de 2013, en Tarragona, mi ciudad, organizamos una gran conferencia internacional como esta, contra la troika, contra los planes de austeridad y contra la guerra también. Y dijimos entonces, y el tiempo nos ha dado la razón, la troika, el capital, los gobiernos cómplices querían hacernos pagar su crisis, devolvernos 100 años atrás. Hoy son los mismos, la misma gente, la misma lógica, solo ha cambiado la excusa. Ayer recortaban en nombre de la deuda, hoy rearman en nombre de la seguridad. ¿Pero qué seguridad? La suya. Y seamos claros, si hoy estamos en pie, es también por la resistencia heroica del pueblo palestino. Por esto el pueblo palestino nos ha convocado aquí, ya estamos aquí y vamos a dar la batalla por ellos. Hoy el capital no vive una crisis, vive una ofensiva, una huida hacia adelante, y su refugio es la guerra. Ya lo dijo Jean Jaurès hace más de 100 años, el capitalismo lleva la guerra dentro de sí como la nube lleva la tormenta. Es la guerra como negocio, la guerra como refugio del capital. Ya no saben qué hacer, no saben qué fabricar, no saben qué competir en el libre mercado que tanto creían. ¿Y el capital dónde se refugia? en las armas, en la industria militar, es el refugio del capital, es un negocio. Convertir nuestras fábricas en máquinas de muerte. Lo llaman Rearm Europe, 800.000 millones de euros. Lo llaman seguridad, su seguridad. Lo llaman defensa, su defensa. Yo lo llamo rearme, guerra a favor del capital y guerra contra los pueblos. Ya en 2013 lo dijimos, queremos una Europa solidaria con los pueblos, una Europa contra las guerras, contra toda injerencia, aunque la disfracen de ayuda humanitaria. Y quieren convencernos, con los argumentos del enemigo de clase, que las armas traen progreso, que crean buenos empleos. Es falso, es tremendamente falso, es muy falso. El sector militar crea menos empleo y peor que cualquier otro sector. Es pura propaganda. ¿Quieren un ejemplo? Los incendios ya han empezado de donde yo vengo. Para apagar el fuego que arrastra nuestros bosques tenemos 18 aviones. 18 aviones. En cambio, tenemos 150 aviones de combate para matar. Esto es lo que hay. Esa es su prioridad. Ese es su modelo de sociedad. Y todavía hay quien dice que la guerra produce mejores cirujanos. Todo vale para justificar la guerra, hasta el cinismo más obsceno. ¿Y cuál es nuestra responsabilidad? Primero, llevar la batalla a nuestra propia casa, a nuestros partidos, a nuestros sindicatos, a nuestras asociaciones. Aquí hay que llevar la batalla, llevarla como un virus que se contagia. Segundo, señalar a nuestros propios gobiernos, Nos dicen que el gasto social, las libertades y el gasto militar son compatibles. Es falso y mil veces falso. Su ataque es social, pero también es un ataque a nuestras libertades y a la libertad de nuestros pueblos. Los profesores, los sanitarios, están en la calle contra la congelación de sus sueldos. No hay la derogación en mi país de la ley Mordaza. ¿Por qué? Porque las jefes de la policía no quisieron. Aprobaron una amnistía para quienes dejaron votar al pueblo de Cataluña, mi pueblo. Nos pegaron y nos llevaron a la cárcel. Hicieron una amnistía y los jueces franquistas no la están aplicando. El mismo gobierno que arma la guerra niega el asilo a los héroes que desertan en Ucrania y en Rusia. ¡Viva los desertores de la guerra! Cada euro, cada misil es un euro robado a una escuela y a un hospital y a una vida. Tienen que servir por una sola cosa, multiplicar nuestra capacidad de acción. En cada país, en cada fábrica, en cada barrio ha de haber resistencia.
Can you stop now, please?
Ok. Ellos tienen aviones, nosotros tenemos los pueblos. Ellos preparan la guerra, nosotros organizamos la única paz verdadera. Ni un soldado, ni un euro para su guerra. ¡Viva la solidaridad internacional de los pueblos! ¡No pasarán! ¡No pasarán! ¡No pasarán!
Okay, thanks very much for that. Our next speaker is Eddie Dempsey. He's the General Secretary of the RMT, the National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers. Give it up for Eddie.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I want to thank the organisers for this very important event. And I just want to start by drawing your attention, those of you who can see it, to my beautiful branch banner up there, the Paddington #1 branch of the RMT Union. Because on that banner is inscripted our motto: the liberty of the working class is the action of the workers. And I think that message underpins the business that we're dealing with here today in this important conference. My trade union has got a very proud history of international peace and international solidarity. We're railway workers, we're seafarers, we're welcome on every port on earth. Many of our friends are here today with us. We're an international union and we've always been on the right side of history. Many of our members worked to break the blockade against Spain during Franco's time. Many of our members fought in the international brigades and gave their life in defence of the Spanish Republic. Many of our members took part in actions to stop the movement of military equipment and stop militarisation over and over again. And indeed, my first political act as a member of my union was to join the anti-war protests here, the biggest anti-war march we ever saw in this country against the Iraq war. We opposed the war in Iraq. We opposed the war in Afghanistan. We opposed the war in Libya and Ukraine and in Syria, and we opposed the war in Iran, and we opposed the genocide in Gaza, and we opposed the pogroms that are taking place in the West Bank. And we have always stood in solidarity with the Palestinian people against their occupation and dehumanisation. And we have always stood with the people of Cuba in support of their revolution and in solidarity with them. This conference is very important because there are some very important things that I think we need to get a grip of. We are in a period that feels to me much like the period before the First World War, and the dangers that face our planet and the peoples of the world couldn't be graver with the rise of militarisation, with the rise of warmongering right across the planet. It's important to us because spending on military and spending on war means there's less money for us here at home for our public services. Indeed, when the Defence Minister resigned recently, the Treasury spokesperson put a quote into one of the newspapers to say that his plans would have meant the cutting of school budgets and the closure of hospitals. And that's why we say welfare, not warfare. That's why we say wages, not weapons, because that's the reality of it. And it goes further than that. I don't think we've seen a period where our civil liberties have been more in danger. And that has been a trend right the way through history. The more war we see abroad, the more restrictive we see the clampdown on our rights and our civil liberties at home. When we see pensioners being rounded up and thrown into the back of police vans for opposing genocide, when we see people being arrested for saying things that all of us believe to be true, then we know we're in trouble. And these things are going to go further, because you've only got to have a look at what the previous Defence Minister wanted us to do. They wanted us to join a European Bank of International Investment purely for war. Those of you who remember the Euro crisis, so-called, where they wouldn't allow fiscal transfer for the peripheral states of Europe, Ireland, Portugal, Greece and Spain. They wouldn't allow money to be transferred for that. They wouldn't allow us to break the Fiscal Stability Pact for that. But they're now prepared to do it in favour of war and militarisation. And what's more, we see the European Investment Bank using the central banks and commercial banks of Europe to provide loans for military and for war. I'll slow down. That's what we want them to do as well. We want them to slow down. What we see is a private military companies, the central banking system of Europe, being coordinated by our governments in the interests of militarism, which will mean less money for schools, for hospitals, for wages, for housing. And we're very proud in the RMT to have contributed towards this event and towards the construction, along with CND, of the Alternative Defence Review, because national security is not counted in missiles. It's counted in secure homes and good jobs and good pensions and decent health services and education for our kids and keeping our old people warm in winter. And I'll wrap up here. We regard this as an extremely important first step, which is why my union will be backing the call to action of trade unions around the world to take action together as a first step. And we believe we've got to develop that, because our bonds of solidarity which stretch this globe is the most important, powerful weapon that we've got. And we must unite the representatives of the working class around this world in the interests of peace, in the interests of justice, to stop the war machine before it's too late. So solidarity, international solidarity forever. Long live the workers of the world.
Thank you very much, Eddie, for that tremendous speech and for all the support RMT gives to our movement. Our next speaker represents the fighting dock workers of Piraeus in Greece. Please give a very warm welcome to Georgios Gogos.
Dear comrades, dear friends, thank you on behalf of Dock Workers Union of Piraeus Port Authority. I'm bringing solidarity greetings from Piraeus. I want to thank organizers for the invitation and the perfect organization these 2 days. Solidarity, it's a magical word. It's a principle, it's a value for trade unions. We have been offered solidarity when we were fighting against privatization of our port in Piraeus. Now times have come that we have to show our solidarity, and we're doing this to the most vulnerable ones. People who are suffering from the powerful ones like Palestinians. They suffer a genocide from Israeli. Cuba is suffering from United States with this irrational boycottage. Syrian people suffered from civil wars. Ukraine, the same. Iranian people now. So in Piraeus, what we succeeded to do is to support Cuba with a solidarity concert before 3 months, organized by more than 35 unions. We are blocking Israeli containers that are having inside military steel, that they are going to military industry of Israeli to make bombs to kill Palestinian people. We blocked their cruise ship, a cruise ship which is Israeli interest and is carrying among the passengers soldiers of IDF. In international level, as members of European Dock Workers Council, we are trying to form a common front against wars. We try to form a common front with other sectors too. European Union has introduced recently the European Port Strategy 2026, which integrates 2 components, military mobility and rearm Europe. They want to transform our ports, commercial ports, to military ports. No, we don't want it. We want to remain our ports bridges for people, for civilizations, for peace. And we will resist, and we'll try our best. What they want from us exactly? From our money, from the national budget, from our taxation, to pay their own weapons to kill our sons and daughters? No, we will not take it. No, we will not take it. And they are put in a dilemma in industry workers, which is not a dilemma, it's a blackmail. So as to keep your job, you have to make the bomb that will kill your son. Isn't it? Let's see it like this. It's a blackmail. No, we give them back this blackmail. In closing, please, when you go back to your countries, to your cities, to your unions. Talk with your colleagues. Talk with your base of your union, with the leadership. Persuade them to create a wide, broad front against warfare. Warfare is killing us, is killing our children. And don't forget, until it comes true, until it happens, don't forget to shout, "Free Palestine!" Free.
Okay. Our next speaker is Maurizio Coppola, who is here representing the Genoa Dockers. So please give him a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Dear comrades and friends, 8 months ago, I had the opportunity in Paris at the same International Against War conference that took place in Paris to speak about the ongoing general strikes and the movement for the liberation of Palestine against genocide and against war. I think it is important today, with 8 months of distance, to reflect again and recall what were the conditions in which these general strikes, 2 general strikes during 10 days, were capable to build. And I think we have to think about 4 elements, a combination of 4 elements that you have to underline. The first one, it is very clear. During 10 days, a mass movement took place in Italy. Families, students, even children took to the streets to say no to genocide, to say no to the involvement of the Italian government in this genocide. I think this was an extraordinary possibility and capacity of the Italian mass movement. The second element, radical actions. There were not just 2-hour strikes. There were not just like 8-hour strikes. It was a blocchiamo tutto, block everything. And this call went from the workplaces to the universities, to the schools, everywhere, streets, airports, train stations, everything was blocked. 2 days of general strike with 2 really blocked, a country that was blocked totally from A to Z. A third element, and I think this is the most important one we have to take in consideration when we look also to the future struggle, is that the movement was led by the most advanced sector of the working class, the dock workers from Genoa, but not only, also from Livorno, Civitavecchia, and so on and so on. Without the working class, there is no movement against war and against militarization. The fourth element, and the last, is this movement was not a spontaneous movement. A long time organizing process was behind that. October 7 was not only the beginning of the genocide in Palestine, it was also the beginning of a development of consciousness, of awareness, what is going on there and what it means for our world, for our lives inside of the core state of capitalism. So the grassroots unions, the USB union organizing the dock workers, they involved themselves, they mixed themselves, they integrated into the movement against the genocide in Palestine. And not only just as a union, but also as a political actor, mobilizing, politicizing, and building the mass movement. The same is for the political organizations that want to break with this system, with capitalism, Zionism, and colonialism. They were there, day by day, handing out leaflets, hanging out newspapers, making political education. It was an organized movement, and this is also very important. Spontaneity cannot lead to such general strikes. It must be organized in advance. What does it mean for the future? I think it's important today, in the moment in which the movement is not so strong as it was before. It's clear. I mean, in October, they decided the so-called peace agreement for Gaza what is not at all a peace agreement, but it was in a way also blocking the possibility to advance with the movement. It was a response to the movement. And now, today, we have to reinforce and to strengthen the capacity to get back to these 2 days we lived in September and October of 2025. And how can we do that? I think we have to have a clarity what concerns analysis and political positions. In Italy today, we see that there are explanations of this militarization that from our point of view are not the right explanations. It is not just like the fool king of Trump or the fool queen of Giorgia Meloni in Italy pushing towards militarization. It is the crisis of the capitalist system that is demanding that imperialism is going deeper and deeper. This is the response of the ruling classes, of the bourgeoisie all over the world to the crisis of capitalism. If we do not connect this analysis with our capacity to mobilize, it is impossible to really break with this system, with capitalism and imperialism. So our enemies is, of course, the government in our countries, but this is also the perspective of building an European army, an European defense system. It is also US imperialism and NATO. And this is the reason why it is so fundamental to meet in such moments and to deepen our analysis in order to strengthen the awareness, to strengthen the capacity of replicate what we had in 2025 in Italy, and then not only in Italy, but all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maurizio. Now, comrades, we are coming to the conclusion of this session. We've got one more speaker. After that speaker, there will be a re-showing of the film that some of you may have seen at lunchtime, but most of you wouldn't have done. That's called Gaza, a film directed and edited by Gabi Samara, with images by Peter Kennard and sound design by Gabi and original music by Brian Eno. So do please stay for that afterwards if you can. Can I, before introducing a final speaker, thank everyone who has attended this outstanding conference today, particularly all the comrades who've come from abroad, from across Europe and the world, to build the mighty anti-war movement that we need to resist the warmongers and build a world of peace based on the defeat of imperialism. So thank you, comrades from Stop the War Coalition. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our final speaker, the General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Belgium and a member of the Belgian Parliament, Peter Mertens.
Yeah. I'm from Belgium. I don't know. Now there is a sparkle in this room, and I'm glad to be part of this sparkle here in London, which is not a sparkle of London, but it's international sparkle. And I will tell something to start from Belgium. In Belgium, every cabinet is in austerity. There is austerity on the public education, healthcare, public transport, etc., etc. Everywhere austerity. There is one exception. There's one cabinet that's not in austerity, but it's getting a lot of money, and that's, of course, the cabinet of defense. They will have 34 billion euros to spend in the next years. So it's party time in the Ministry of Defense. And so we asked the Minister of Defense, can we see your shopping list? You have 34 billion to spend. Can we see your shopping list? And we had the shopping list. And then we checked it. They were not commanding material to defend Belgium. It was not on their list. They were commanding killer drones. They were commanding F-35s. They were commanding frigates. They were commanding all kinds of material to intervene in the Congo, in Sahel. And so, dear comrades, they are not constructing a defense in Europe. They are constructing a new imperialist army with our money, and we have to say, no, European imperialism is not the answer to the US imperialism, dear comrades. It is a robbery, it is a scam, and there is a second robbery going on, the robbery on our democratic space, and they're doing it by the big reversal, by a great reversal. Everything that is normal is being abnormalized, being criminalized, and everything that should not be normal is today presented as normal. Instead of stopping the genocide in Gaza and stopping the arms deliveries to Israel, they prosecute activists for Palestine. Instead of doing everything to stop the war history in Europe, they call peace activists the fifth column. Instead of condemning the far-right terror that spreads pogroms like in Belfast, and instead of stopping the hate networks of Elon Musk, they prosecute anti-fascists. That is the great reversal. And we say, stop, comrades. We are here to put the world back to its feet, on its feet. It is normal to demand an end at the genocide. It is normal to stand up against fascism. It is normal to fight for our jobs. It is normal to fight against war. It is normal to demand our future, dear comrades. And we are entering a new era, the beginning of the decline of imperialism, the beginning only, but there is no other balance yet, and so it's a messy time. We know that, comrades and friends, when in stable periods the balance of power seems fixed, that is, the big remains big and the small remains small, that's the stable periods. But in a turmoil like today, everything can change rapidly, and what seems untouchable can melt away very quickly, and what seems small today can grow very rapidly. And we are the sparkle, we are the small thing that will be growing all over Europe to say no to welfare, and no to warfare, and yes to welfare, dear comrades. And so, yes. No a la guerra, it's Spanish. No a la guerra. Let's talk. There's a lot of talk, dear comrades, to finish, about hope. A lot of talk about hope. But hope is not some word being there. Hope is not some word in the future. Hope is not a word in a book. Hope is something we should build actively. Hope is mobilization, hope is organization, and hope is struggle. And so, look around, there's a sparkle here in London. There was a sparkle last week in Brussels when 12,000 manifested against the war. We are building something across Europe. You can be proud of yourself. We are not here to change capitalism. We are not here to change imperialism. We are here to change everything and to build socialism, comrades. La lucha continúa.
Well, thank you, comrades. Do stay and watch the film. Otherwise, have a safe journey home.
ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا